Good morning. Coming to you live from Indianapolis, Indiana! That's right. It's a Feel Good Friday here with the Pat McAfee Show. We can't thank you enough for listening, watching, no matter where you are on the globe across the country. It is Friday, September 27th. It's been an incredible week. It started in New York. Then we went to Memphis, Tennessee. Got a lot to talk about that. I have so many questions about Vegas. I don't know how these people in the desert know everything about everything. We'll dive into that. The Packers and Aaron Rodgers had an insane night, threw for over 400 yards. Devontae Adams was a stud in the first half. They didn't target him in the second half, it sounded like. My prediction was so close to being accurate until they decided to run the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl play to win that thing at the end. Ty Schmidt, owner of the Packers, hates what LaFleur did last night. Excited to hear him talk about not only LaFleur, but also Jimmy Graham. Joining us at 10:15 is a beat writer for the Packers for The Athletic named
Matt Schneidman.
Can't wait to talk to him about what's going on in Green Bay. Eagles, are they back? Are they all the way back? Did Carson Wentz lead the Eagles last night and make you think, you know what, this Eagles team is the truth? I said it wasn't a must-win for the Eagles, but I'll tell you what, it's a damn good one to get there on the road on a Thursday night, which isn't easy to do. We got some locks for you later in the day. Our friends at FanDuel have the greatest lines. And I'll tell you what, last week I was pretty hot on the gambling. The boys, good, better bets, Todd, Diggs, Gumpy, we'll have some locks for you. It's a nice feel-good Friday here at the Pat McAfee Show. And also, does Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, listen to me? Whole new respect if he does. They're proposing a 17-game season, which is what I've been proposing literally for over a year now, I think. We'll dive into that. We'll get your calls, 1-833-622-3331. Evan Foxy, wearing a hilariously terrible shirt. Play some Chase Rice.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
That is correct, Mr. Chase Rice, who is currently on tour right now. If you want to see a great country concert, go and check out The Kid. He donated that song to us, so the least we could do is promote his tour. If you're in a city where he's at, go ahead and listen to that handsome man sing about country stuff. Joining me in the studio is all of the boys. DJ Nick, Diggs is here, Todd's here, Ty, Zito, Foxy, and Gumpy's on the phones in the back there representing Canada and a lot of great things. We'll get to the calls for sure on this Feel Good Friday. That never fails. My headset just fell off, so I'm not going to be able to hear anybody in the back room. But this Vegas thing is getting to a point where it's freaking me out. I know for years and years and years, bookies on the corner have been profiting off of these big-time brains over there in Las Vegas. I know that people have been talking about how Vegas and these bookies can somehow predict things in the sports gambling world that makes people who gamble on sports go, how do these people know? For instance, last night, I was in Memphis when Navy, the midshipman, Coach Neo Matalolo, by the way, I forgot it about midway through the game. I did. I called him Coach Ken. I took the easy way out, which is his Twitter, which isn't a big deal. Yeah. But Hasselbeck literally said, what's his last name? And I was like, almost had a vitamin moment. I was like, and I wrote it down here when we interviewed him on the piece of paper here. And in my brain, in the middle of the game in Memphis, Tennessee, where there's potentially 4 or 5 shootings right outside the stadium happening, there's a lot of great action happening on the field. I had to dive back into my brain when I was staring at this piece of paper, and I interviewed him, and I had it spelled Neeyu Matalolo. He's a good coach. They were very hospitable to us. But how did the people in Vegas have any idea about that game last night? The Navy midshipmen, after talking to their team, after talking to Memphis, they both knew that it was going to be a close one. The last 2 years, the games came down to the final second. They were 3-point games. This week, it was a 10.5 or 11 spread, depending on where you bet, when you got it, how you got it. Everybody was confused by that, I think. Literally everybody. And when the game started up, 41-yard run to start. Navy could do whatever they wanted. Malcolm Perry was unbelievable. Nelson Smith was keeping them honest at fullback. And then somehow, at halftime, the Memphis Tigers learned how to play defense against a triple option. Navy got both of their great impact players hurt. How in the hell did the people in Vegas have any idea that that was going to happen? It looked like it was going to be a steamroll, a blowout. 80% of the money was on Navy as well. 80% of the money was on the plus 10.5 or 11. 80%. Only 20% of gamblers won last night, which means 80% Vegas win last night. How did they know that was going to happen? It still baffles me. It makes zero sense to me. Diggs, you're Italian, I guess. You probably have a little bit more insight into this. But what the hell do they do over there to know more than anybody about anything?
I have more respect for the guys of the past because they didn't have like computer systems that figure out what the spread should be based off of millions of stats like they do these days. But still, it's incredible that they could come within it. I feel like 70% of the games, they're not always right.
No. Sometimes they get it completely wrong, and everybody's happy.
70% of the time, I feel like the total and the spread falls within 2 to 3 points.
It makes no sense to me. Last night, whenever I looked at that spread going into the game, and I checked how much money was on it, I'm like, Vegas is about to get slaughtered. I'm like, what a bunch of dum-dums, bro. And even early in the game, I was like, the people in the desert said this thing was a 10.5 point spread. I think Navy is begging to differ at this moment. I even said that in the first half, which probably, by the way, my fault. Hindsight, that I even mentioned anything. But it was just pure insanity. It's like, how the hell did these people have any? It ended up being 12, by the way. For those that didn't watch, it was a 12-point. It did not look like it was going to be that way. Memphis had 15 plays in the first half or something, only 6 minutes of total time of possession. They were dead, absolutely dead, much like about 3 to 4 people outside the stadium who got There was an actual shooting outside the stadium.
Yeah, there was. Guy was lucky, though, because initially our correspondent down there said that, getting shot isn't what you have to worry about. It's getting your throat slashed.
I'm sure Memphis, because Memphis has a rich history and a rich tradition. A lot of things come through Memphis that we love. B.B. King, you name it, anything in the blues world. Elvis Presley, obviously, Graceland's down there. Well, that place needs a little bit of a remodel. I mean, I'm sure there's nice parts of that town, but we saw every crappy part of that town, I think. I think we were in there and out of there of all the bad spots. And I found it interesting. The stadium was owned by the city. It's not owned by the university. So any remodels to that, anything they need, locker rooms, field, anything, the coach of Memphis, Coach Norvell, has to go politicking. He actually has to go politicking the city councilmen and mayors to get upgrades. And it's got to be tough for him to want money in that stadium whenever he just steps foot out of his house in Memphis. It's like, oh, I should probably spend money on this particular set of 14 blocks that look like
look like a bomb went off.
It does.
He'll feel bad put money into the stadium when the rest of the city.
That's what I'm saying.
That stadium is massive, too. It looks like they were holding Roman games in there with gladiators.
Dude, we were 17 stories up. I couldn't even see the guys. They looked like little ants running down on the field. Adam Amin was using binoculars. I got LASIK. I mean, I guess that's good. But Adam Amin was using damn binoculars in the middle of the game. He was like, Pat, you want to get a look at that or whatever? I put it on. It looks like you're looking in an aquarium. Just like a full thing.
The booth looked more spacious than the last couple.
We did have a little bit more room. I could see the entire field, although there was pillars right in front of us kind of blocking off a 10-yard area. In Tulane, I couldn't see a third of the field, so that was kind of an interesting situation. It's where that game-winning touchdown happened, I couldn't see it. So I didn't see it live. I watched it on a 10-second delay on the monitor that's in front of us. So that was pretty awesome. The only thing I could see was the flags. That's why people were like, why'd you mention the flags? Well, I'm just commentating what I could see. I couldn't see anything else. So I did miss the Packers game. I've gotten quite a recap, though, both on the flight home last night and this morning, listening to Ty grumble and mumble and brumble about what happened to the Packers. We'll be joined by a beat writer here in about 5 minutes to talk about the state of Green Bay right now. Aaron Rodgers got loose. Yesterday I said that the Packers are going to win this game. Eagles +4 was a bad bet. I didn't think anybody should take it. People were taking Eagles money line. They said +4 looked beautiful. It just felt like on a short week, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams are going to be backyard football because whenever you're playing on Thursday, it's a smaller offensive game plan. The defense doesn't have as long to prepare for you. Playmakers have a chance to make plays. And I think that's what happened from what I'm being told.
Yeah, I mean that's how it looked in the first half. Devontae Adams couldn't be. I mean he was on pace to have like 300 receiving yards. hurt his toe. The big thing is they just
the toe
turf
will
toe.
get you.
their red zone play calling is so bad. They march right down the field and then just have to settle for a field goal, and you just can't do that with Rodgers. Great teams score in the red zone, and they didn't last night.
Hey, good teams kick field goals. Great teams score tutters. There's nothing against kicking field goals.
No.
Points are points. It's better than a turnover. But those 4 points are quite a difference in the game later in the field. What's up?
They were in the red zone 7 times, scored 3 touchdowns. I mean, Rodgers had 422 yards. I mean,
So,
they moved the ball.
A lot of people from Philadelphia listen to the show and were coming after me for what I said yesterday. I think I'm probably going to get a message from Jake Elliott, actually, the kicker for the Eagles. Anytime I say something negative about the Eagles, he'll be like, hey, cuzzy, love you, man, but don't bet against us ever. I'm like, I'm trying not to, but, I mean, we got pictures of Aaron Rodgers in the studio for the reason. I mean, that dude is just a playmaker. He's a player. You know what I mean? And they got a defense. He seems excited. I still like that. Now, I don't know, actually. I got to watch that game back to see if I still like them as my NFC pick. If Matt LaFleur is as garbage as everybody's saying he is at figuring out how to win games, then I'm going to have to maybe back off the Packers. But for me, I just assumed that this short week was going to be good for both LaFleur and Rodgers. I mean, he threw for 400-some yards.
Yeah.
50-some pass attempts, though?
Yeah, 53.
Isn't it insane that this number just popped in my head? Lamar Jackson had 43 pass attempts last week. Aaron Rodgers says 53, which is way too many for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So to think that 10 less is probably stupid high for Lamar Jackson, who came out, by the way, and said he hates running, which, by the way, I like that. I like the fact that he thinks that running is going to be the death of him because it will be the death of him. And if he can start precision passing, I like that a lot. Let's get back to these Packers, though. Defense wasn't as good as we thought they were?
Both.
Couldn't
No.
stop the run.
Couldn't stop the run, and their big thing is like when they're creating turnovers and getting to the quarterback, they're very, very good, but they didn't do either one of those things last night.
Well, sometimes when you're on defense and it's prime time, you got to take a little page out of Memphis, and you're a D end. You got to try to get to Carson Wentz, and you got to.
Smack him right in the mouth.
I was thinking you were going to slash the throat. All right, we got a beat writer from the Packers here on the other side of the break. We'll talk to him. I want to know because I've been going to bat here for the Packers pretty hard. Oh, there you go. Takes a couple seconds. I was just eyeballing Nick to play the music so we get to the break. Hey, in the truck, man. I mean, every day it's like something's not going to work.
Somewhere on the side of the highway.
It's broken down right now.
It's a truck. That's what trucks do.
The box truck is literally broken down, just like my truck is currently broken down. I mean, what are we, 3 weeks into this thing?
Yeah.
2 trucks are broken down. Tech issues everywhere. 1 FCC fine. Shout out Diggs.
Whoa,
I'm assuming. You just can't say that word.
Bob dumped us. Don dumped us.
Easy.
Yeah,
Well,
wow.
whatever good faith you have, you just lost it. So
Yeah, I called the guy the wrong name.
Well, I had
Yikes.
the other name in my head because the box truck's going to get fixed.
Maybe. Yeah, it's 10-14, Friday, September 27th. We'll be back on the other side of the break with a beat writer for the Green Bay Packers, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. Like, what does that mean?
He's on the beat.
Who cares? You're listening to the Packers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be broadcasted worldwide, wide on the DAZN app. Do you know what the oldest sport in the world is? Boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the app with the greatest boxing matches on slate for the next, 10 years?
I do.
Quick answer, DAZN. What they have coming up is about to be electrifying, damn near nuclear. Ladies and gentlemen, DAZN Boxing is about to be your new favorite combat sports. That's mixed martial arts.
Let's get ready to rumble! Anthony Joshua! Oh, yes, right hand by Joshua. Comes back with a hook. Perfected now on his heels. He's hurt. Joshua tried everything, a big right hand. And this is over.
A landmark 11-fight, $365 million deal, making Canelo the highest-paid athlete on the planet.
Callum Smith has claimed the inaugural Muhammad Ali trophy. That is what is on the line. Here we go. Ryan Garcia. Can Rocky survive? And there's not much he can do. That was a headshot down the body, and that's
Here today to discuss the new partnership between Gennady Golovkin and DAZN. Golovkin's going to spend the rest of his career fighting here on DAZN.
That's right, to New Beginnings. Welcome to Change Up alongside Scott Rogowski. I'm Adnan Burke. Every night, this is going to be the place to be.
I always wanted to know, like, as a boxer, how is it when you step into the ring, your name and career and everything you work for is on the line?
the fighting pride of all Ireland, Katie Taylor.
All the suits, all the shoes, all this pretty glitz and glamour, at the end of the day, it don't mean nothing. We got to step in that ring.
You see the size difference. Jacobs is the taller man, but there is just thudding power from Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, just an outstanding performance in a title defense.
Rampage evens the series. Mamma mia! And down goes Rojas. Patricio Pitbull has done it. That's an elbow that's come in there, you know. What a round. And he's wobbled again. He's got down after the bell. Big drama show continues, ladies and gentlemen.
Triple G sends a message to Canelo. Here we go, round number one, heavyweight championship of the world. Ruiz comes to fire back, and Joshua's hurt. Joshua is hurt, he's staggered, and he goes down again. He says that's it. Andy Ruiz is the heavyweight champion. Wow, wow, wow.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here on beautiful Friday, September 27th. If you're watching at DAZN, I threw to a boxing commercial. Turns out it was a DAZN commercial. Would love to have gotten a heads up by the people that are making the commercials, but that's neither here nor there. Just know that DAZN has the goods for you the next upcoming months for anything you could fathom. Speaking of having the goods, everybody thought that Aaron Rodgers had the goods, and damn it, he did. I mean, 400 and some yards last night. Devontae Adams making plays, but they couldn't get a win on Thursday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call because the Philadelphia Eagles, Jordan Howard, and a stingy defense at the end steals it. Joining us now is Matt Schneidman from The Athletic, beat writer for the Green Bay Packers. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Pat, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I want to let you know I almost called you Schneidman, and that would have been rude of me. But I thank you for joining us. So last night, what did you learn from the Green Bay Packers, and how does the Packers faithful feel about this Matt LaFleur-led Green Bay Packer team right now?
I think we learned that this defense. I don't want to say it was a fluke the first three games.
Whoa.
This otherworldly defense that allowed 11.7 points per game maybe came back down to earth a little bit. But at the same time, we realized that that magician Aaron Rodgers that wasn't there the first three games can still play that level of football that we've come to see from him. So maybe one of these days the Packers will balance both out and we'll get the great Aaron Rodgers and the good defense in one game. But a little bit of a reality check for the Packers last night.
I think a short week is never good for the defense. They don't get a chance to prepare as much as they probably should. So maybe the defense for the Packers will come back around in the future weeks whenever they have an entire week to prepare. Normally it bodes well for the offense. Speaking of the offense, everybody's telling me about these red zone failures last night. 7 trips to the red zone, only 3 tutters. What's going on in the red zone? What is Matt LaFleur's offense that can't score in there? Is it Aaron Rodgers' fault? I would say never, but you can say something different, Mr. Schneidman.
There's a reason I'm not a play caller and Matt LaFleur is, but I will say 8 plays inside the Eagles' 10-yard line in the fourth quarter, and you pass 7 times and run once. And at the time of that first fourth quarter drive in the red zone, you have a running back who led the NFL in rushing touchdowns inside the 10-yard line in Aaron Jones. And you run once with him. So it was a little confusing, especially on that first sequence where they had 4 plays from the 1-yard line. Didn't pass or didn't run once. And I think that's what the game boils down to. The Eagles were 4 for 4 in goal-to-go situations. Packers 1 for 3. They explained after the game, Aaron Rodgers, LaFleur, they both felt good about all the plays that were called. In an ideal world, also, you'd have Devontae Adams on the field, led the NFL in red zone touchdowns with 12 last year, picked up a turf toe right before that first goal line sequence. So not having him on the field for those probably restricts you when Jimmy Graham, an older Jimmy Graham, is your number 1 red zone option as opposed to arguably the best red zone threat in the NFL. So a couple of those things were restricting, but when it boils down to it, you got to get it done when you're that close.
Do you think Matt LaFleur heard about all this banter about him and Aaron Rodgers not getting along? And he goes, you know what, Aaron? You're my guy. I'm going to have you throw 53 times tonight. Do you think this is Matt LaFleur trying to earn Aaron Rodgers' appreciation and respect, or do you think that Aaron Rodgers is just one of the best football players of all time? Let's put the ball in his hands at all times and see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never be able to convince me that giving Aaron Rodgers more plays is a bad idea. Like you said, he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, especially at improvising. We saw last night him making so many plays off schedule with his feet, creating something out of nothing. But I also think this had something to do with it. Jamal Williams, who's been pretty sturdy for them as a backup running back to Aaron Jones, gets carted off the field on a stretcher on the first play from scrimmage after taking a hit to the head from Derek Barnett. I think that kind of affected their pass-run ratio plan going in. So they didn't want to throw everything on Aaron Jones' shoulders, so that's why I think you saw 58 passes called a little bit. But even if Jamal Williams stays healthy, you're not going to convince me that giving Aaron Rodgers 58 pass plays is a bad idea.
Am I wrong? Was it 53 or 58?
I think it was 53, but Rodgers said last night we had 58 pass plays called. And then I think, 5 of them were his 5 rushes were scrambles. They were called pass plays, but he just improvised. I guess that's what he was saying.
I got you. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Was that Philadelphia Eagles team for real? Did they look great in your eyes? And did it look like a team that was going to be able to make a run here? Because, man, a couple drops away from being a completely undefeated team at this point. Everybody was kind of bailing on them because that's what people do to Philadelphia. I don't know why. I feel like it's been since the beginning of time people are ready to bail on Philadelphia, except for Philadelphians. But how that Philadelphia Eagles team look, and are they going to be a real threat in the NFC? Or do you think this is going to be just a fluke game here, get a big win in Lambeau?
No, I think they're definitely for real. I mean, everyone knows about Carson Wentz, but their rushing attack, I mean, yeah, they probably split snaps 3 ways between Howard, Sanders, and Sproles, and maybe it's because the Packers' run defense is really bad, but Jordan Howard, 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. I mean, that was the guy that Packers fans came to despise when he was on the Bears. I think if they can have that rushing attack, they're going to get Deshaun Jackson back. That run defense with Fletcher Cox up front that's really hard to penetrate, and you saw it with the Packers only having 77 rushing yards last night. So I definitely think, you said it, Eagles could easily be 4-0. We knew this was going to be a tough game, and I definitely think they'll be right in the thick of things when all is said and done.
Matt Schneidman, thank you so much. Go read his words at The Athletic. An incredible writer, an incredible tweeter. He's the one who posted the photo of the boys wearing some game winner shirts for J.K. Scott, which raised money for Hurricane Dorian relief. Actually, I think we made $10,000 for that, or $7,500 to $10,000. I don't know the final numbers for those shirts. So big thank you to you, Matt Schneidman. Have an incredible day. Let's hope the Packers get back on the right track.
Yeah, that was the only bad thing about Rodgers playing well. We didn't get to see J.K. Scott launch some bombs into orbit. Last night.
Hey, were you the one to talk to him that he said, I don't do yoga, I do Pilates?
There was a group interview around there, and I think he loved the shout-out, but that was the one thing he took exception to.
It's the same damn thing, Jay. I appreciate you, Matt. Have a good one. Okay, so that's an interesting thought, though. 58 plays, pass plays called there on Thursday night. And that Thursday night, that short week, you're only getting a day and a half to really prepare for a team. So you never really are the team that you are on Thursday nights. And now, granted, with the safety issues and health issues of Thursday night, there's a lot of beef with this Thursday night. It's not real football. It's not the teams getting to prepare. You're paying people millions of dollars to strategize and make the best game possible. They only have a day and a half to do so you can't really judge the defense. They haven't really got any good looks. They don't have anything like that. And you can't judge the offense either. But whenever something like this happens, you can really judge the coach. Especially whenever he only has a couple plays probably in the book there for that short week. And whenever you're on the 3-yard line, 4-yard line?
Yeah,
4 plays from the 1.
4 plays from the 1.
At the end there?
That was earlier, but, I mean, it just...
I have a question now, and I don't want to pivot away from not handing the ball off one time and letting the big hogs up front get a little bit of an eat, even though Fletcher Cox is on the other side. I mean, you at least got to keep them honest. But what is the purpose of the reviewing of pass interference if these refs are refusing to overturn? It's almost like the refs have taken a stand. Mr. Alberto Riveron and all the boys in the refs, they're like, listen, the NFL can make the rules, doesn't mean we have to abide by them. If they want to go and overturn pass interferences that we obviously mess up, obviously. I saw some photos last night on the internet while we were flying home where an Eagles defender had his face was directly in the face of, I forget the wide receiver.
He was Geronimo Allison.
Geronimo, incredible name. I think that's what they called Bin Laden whenever they were peeking.
Yeah.
That's all I think of every time. I'm like, I think that's what they called Bin Laden.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm sorry that his name is attached with that, but in my head, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, that was his Bin Laden's code name. Geronimo Down, I think, whenever they killed him.
I believe you're right.
I think that was the call sign. So that's all I think of. But anyways, Geronimo, great name. That Eagles defender literally had his face on his face mask, hand up in the air, which, by the way, face guarding, which I'm not sure if they've changed the rules or whatever.
Not a thing anymore.
Not a thing anymore, but you can't make contact before the ball gets there. The ball is clearly still on its way in. It's like if that's not getting overturned, what is going to get overturned? That is almost, now it's not as egregious as the Roby Coleman hit where he took the guy out in the Saints, but it's damn near the same thing. If you're just refusing to overturn things because you're stubborn old men in Foot Locker costumes because you're upset about the NFL trying to change the way you have to call games and trying to help you out with tech because your eyes can maybe deceive you a little bit because the game's much faster than it was in the past, like get over yourself. It's almost like Walt Anderson's making all the decisions for these refs and just being a grumpy old man and refusing to do it. And then that last play, that very much appeared to be as if that guy was getting tackled. Which, by the way, incredible defensive play. But I believe he was there a bit early, and it's under 2 minutes. It's like, why don't they challenge that? Well, that's from the refs. The refs don't want to be able to challenge pass interference. There's no way they're going to do that for you. I'm not going to blame the refs because I didn't watch the entire game. I didn't get a chance to see if it was 100% their fault. But I don't like the way the refs are handling this whole thing, kind of being against change, the whole blah, blah, blah. But in my eyes, it's like, come on, there's been a couple obvious things that need to be overturned, and they're just refusing to do it, it feels like.
They definitely got a memo that do not overturn the call on the field when it comes to pass interference.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's not the person on the field doing it. It's not the ref on the field.
No,
it's the people in New York. I was told last night by DVS Sport or whatever that when the refs are looking in those 7-inch cameras, which is what they are, they're 7-inch screens and that just looks ridiculous, by the way. And I'm a part of college football now. I'm a voice of college football, some would say.
Sure.
The first game of the weekend, me, Matt, Adam, and Molly kind of introduce you to a college football weekend. So I might as well be the Walmart greeter of college football. Whenever they show those refs with their little hats on, diving into a 7-inch screen, I can't help but make fun of that every single time. It's going to be very difficult. I'm sure I'm going to get a text from somebody that's like, please don't go after the But it's like they're not even doing anything. They literally are doing nothing. They have the headset on. They're watching along while the replay refs are watching, and they can listen to what they're saying so they can fully understand why a call was made and stuff. But they have zero input. They are just there. They are a puppet with the strings being pulled like that NSYNC video back in the day. Just like the same thing that happens in NFL. The people in New York at the call center, command center, they're doing everything. Those refs are just looking at it, and they're like, all right, go out there in front of the 6,000 people and say what we just said. And they're like, oh, you want me to go out? You want me to go out and say what you just said? Because I feel like the Packers in LaFleur, although I don't know if this is his style or not, I think he does have a gripe with a couple of those pictures that I saw. Now, granted, pictures can be taken out of context, but that's what reviews are. They're just a series of pictures run in a that's what video is. I don't have to dive deep into the technology behind video, but it's just a bunch of pictures being taken, just rolled fast forward. I don't know how they don't overturn that. I have no idea.
No, LaFleur said he doesn't know what pass interference is anymore, and he definitely thought it was going to be overturned because when he pulled out the red flag, he spiked it very, very hard and very confident.
I like that a lot. A little passion, a little bit of energy. Let's go to Nick in North Kakalaka. Wants to talk about Matt LaFleur. What's up, Nick?
Hey, sorry about that.
I mean, yeah, you just dropped your phone as soon as you got on the air. But Nick, I'm excited to talk to you. What part of North Carolina are you in, and what do you want to talk about? This dude stinks. I can't anymore. I mean, he drops his phone, apologizes for it, and then puts it on mute, I think. I think he hit the mute button somehow while picking up his phone. Nick just had a complete fumble there on this beautiful Friday, 1-833-622-3331. Let's go to Blake in California. He wants to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Blake, what's up? Oh, my God. What is the deal? Is this us, Gumpy, or is this the...
This is completely on them, and my mic doesn't work.
Blake, what's up?
He's there. You can hear him there.
Blake, you're breathing.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I can hear you.
Blake, what's up? You're on the air.
Sabotage.
I can hear you. He says, this is other shows. This is that Damon Amendola kid getting his terrible listeners that tweet me about us replacing his show, calling in and sabotaging our show. I can't take it anymore. I can hear you, he says. Gumpy, are you giving them speeches before they go on air? Like, hey, whenever he says hello, we need you to at least participate in the conversation. Is that happening?
I mean, most of them complain that they never get on, and then they pull that. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you never get on because we got a lot to talk about. I had a chance there to segue into some callers. I'm being told by a lot of people that, hey, Pat, your callers aren't bringing it. Please do not go to your callers. I'm like, no, the callers and the listeners are a massive part of the show. They're a huge part of this thing. I would like them to feel as if they're involved. If they have an opinion, I'd like them to share it on this show. But every single time we get people on the air, they stink. I mean, that Peyton kid from Pittsburgh brought the heat. I'm a big fan of him. Mm-hmm. Let's give him the hotline. But it's like, hey, whenever you get on here, Mike Francesa told me this.
Okay, if people are coming on the show, you know, you're up there performing, and they either need to improve it or they need to get the hell out of there.
Exact words by Mike Francesa. I used to think like, oh, when people call in, oh, they're listeners of the show, I need to be thankful for them, which I am, by the way. I'm very thankful that people want to participate in the show. They want to call in the show. They're listening to the show. But when you get a chance to be on the show, let's do the show. Let's do the show. Let's have thoughts.
I mean, say something. Don't just stand there and swing your door open so we can hear it creak.
How about breathe into the phone and then say, I can hear you, and then it's over. And if that's the Blake I think it is, I'm a big fan of that guy. And if he's trying to sabotage our show, I will block him immediately from everything. What if that's Matt LaFleur calling in because we've been bashing him? What if Matt LaFleur's just sitting in some basement in Green Bay? He's like, oh, he makes shirts about our punter. He says that I'm holding him back, and he says that I'm a terrible play caller. Okay, I'll call in and just give dead air so they can hopefully get canceled.
Can I ask you a question about LaFleur?
Absolutely.
Should he be hammered if, by all accounts, the run game was not working and the Eagles' secondary was terrible last night for throwing it 53 times? It was working.
If I have Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, I'm trying to throw the ball all the time. I didn't get a chance to watch the flow of the game. I know that Aaron threw for 400 and some yards or whatever. That's a massive number, so obviously he was having success. I watched some plays where Aaron was doing Aaron things where he was backyard footballing, just like we thought was going to happen. But Aaron Rodgers, if you have him on your team, I mean, I think we got to feed him, especially whenever everybody's saying that you have a struggling defense going into that week. It's like, well, We're our struggling offense. I'm sorry. Well, we've been a struggling offense here early. Everybody's poking fun at it. Matt LaFleur got the job because he sat down with Sean McVay one time for a cup of coffee. Everybody's looking for the next Sean McVay. He's a young offensive guy. He's from the Titans, who are known to be an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever he was hired, everybody was like, "Oh, good idea, bringing in the offensive juggernaut from the Tennessee Titans." So, I mean, there's a lot of things that he has to prove. And if you're struggling and you have Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, it'd be easy for you to say on a short week, like, "Hey, listen, this game is yours, Aaron Rodgers. This game is going to be you. We need you. We're going to rely on you." But you would think at some point you got to help Aaron out too. And if you run the ball and keep him honest a little bit, even if you don't gain yards, even if you lose a yard, at least it makes them keep some people in the box so that whenever you do try to pass it in the red zone, you have a little bit of space back there. Because right now on the play that I watched, that last play of the game, it looked just like the Patriots defense. It looked like they were sitting on that. They knew what was coming. They saw it happening. I think they had 3 guys around him over there. It just felt as if they knew it was coming, and that can happen when you don't keep a team honest. But you can't blame LaFleur for being like, "Hey, our offense is stunk. Our defense has been great. We got Aaron Rodgers. It's a short week. Let's just put this thing on that beautiful man's shoulders," and they're almost in it. They almost won the damn thing.
Well, and the problem too is he did commit to the run in the first half. Like there were a couple times where they were driving, they'd pick up a first down, he'd run it 2 times, they wouldn't get any good gains, and they'd be behind the sticks, and then he just completely abandoned it in the second half. So he did try to do it a little bit, but I mean, they scored a rushing touchdown, they had some success. So I don't know,
Hey, by the way,
happy.
turf toe, that'll hop up out of nowhere and get you. I mean, turf toe will pop up out of nowhere and get you. Just like a stub toe.
It's the worst.
Walking around the house. Maybe you landed at like 2:15 a.m. Your truck's broken. You need to hop in a Jeep with 14 dudes. You get home. You got 2 cats welcoming you. Fiending for some catnip. So you dump some catnip down their throats to make them feel better so you can still be parent of the year because you haven't been home much. Then you turn off all the lights so that the corgi that's just a stuck-up prick can sleep. And you're dragging your bags and your soul and your lifeless body back to the bedroom because it hasn't been home in days. It feels like years. And all of a sudden, there's a new little table in the house that you didn't know was there. And you don't have your slippers on because they've been chewed up by said dog that's a stuck-up prick. And you just ram your ring toe and pinky toe into that thing so hard as if you're trying to kick the table across the room. And what do you just say? You let out a loud 4-letter word, and now you're hobbling through the house with everybody awake because it sounded as if somebody broke into the house. But the only thing that broke was your pinky toe on that table. That's what turf toe is.
If you want to know what it's like to be a serial killer and what they feel all the time, it's that 3 seconds right after you stub your toe. That's what they feel all day, every day. No self-control. They just let it fly.
Oh, because of the amount of things that came out of my mouth.
Yeah, you ever stub your toe? You go completely insane for 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah, I literally did it at 2:27 a.m. this morning.
That's what serial killers are like all the time.
I mean, I almost felt bad for him. But I just can't. 10:39, Friday, September 27th. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. got to let the beat build here a little bit. There we go. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show on Westwood and DAZN. It is Friday, September 27th, 2019. We can't thank you enough for listening. Big time weekend for gambling. Every weekend's a big time weekend for gambling. We got some games on slate with our friends at FanDuel Diggs. Let's do a quick pick 'em, shall we?
All right, so I got 5 of the bigger games this weekend.
Okay.
Browns at Ravens. Current line is -6.5 for the Ravens.
Hammer the Browns, especially after the Rex Ryan Baker Mayfield thing. Let's go. Hammer the Brownies. This is a statement game, not only for the colors orange and brown, but for every human in that locker room. Freddie Kitchens he read the book, Offensive Play Calling for Dummies. They are going to dominate this weekend. I'll go with the Brownies.
Completely agree. Chiefs at Lions +6.5.
Lions +6.5. I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't know why. I think it's strictly because I made this big declaration that it's much more likely that the Lions beat the Chiefs than the Bills beat the Pats. So I just kind of have to stick with it. But I also like that Lions team. I like what Matt Patricia's building up there. I like that locker room after the game. It was a much different feel than in last year when it felt like everybody hated Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia kicked everybody out, said, get out of here. We're going to bring in young Danny Amendola. We're going to bring in people that want to do it our way. We're going to focus on technique. We're going to do our jobs just like we did in New England. We're going to find our own identity. They tied their first game. Everybody said ties stink. The Lions stink. And all they've done is stack a couple wins up. The Lions cover 6.5. But boy, Patty Mahomes, just like the last time he was in an indoor arena, is probably going to put up at least 4 Bills this weekend.
Patriots at Bills. Bills are +7.
Let's go ahead and hammer the Patriots. And let me tell you why. Last night, Tom Brady liked a video of somebody on NFL Network talking about how the Bills are going to upset the Patriots. Anybody that knows anything about the way Tom Brady operates whenever he feels slighted, when he feels jaded, when somebody talks just a little bit of trash on him, he targets that person and then he buries that person. Tom Brady wasn't just trolling there. Tom Brady was building a bigger chip on his shoulder. And somehow Bills Mafia, who does not deserve what's about to happen to him, does not deserve that NFL Network person adding a little bit more fuel to the fire. Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, Philip Dorsett, and those boys on defense who have not allowed a touchdown rushing or passing in the first 3 weeks for the first time, I think, ever. Somehow they lose Gronk. Tom gets older, and their team is even better now. Bills Mafia is in for a long day, and I would also hammer Dildo ends up on the field. I think it's at -140. Hammer that as well.
Agree. I got a stat for you there. Patriots have played 3 teams with no wins. Bills have played 3 teams with no wins. Patriots have won their games by 90 combined points. The Bills have won their games by 19 combined points.
You see that quick math there, 61-point differential there in favor of the greatest of all time, both as a coach, both as a player, and the defense, which if you go by one particular stat of not allowing a touchdown, greatest defense in the history of the game.
Vikings at Bears. Bears are -2.5.
Oh, this is a tough one. This was zero prep, called quick pick'em. Going to have to think about this one. Is anybody injured for the Bears?
No.
Kyle Long's dong was on the internet. He handled it in incredible fashion. Tyreek Cohen, who probably felt terrible, gets a reprieve because Kyle Long, being an incredible teammate, an incredible man, not making him feel sick about it for 2 years like some other people I might know. I'm joking. I like the Bears there, strictly because I'm not a big fan of the way Kirk Cousins plays football. Adam Thielen, good friend of the show. Kyle Rudolph, incredible football player, kind of a friend of the show. Not that big of a friend of the show, kind of a friend of the show. I like the Minnesota people. We were in Minnesota, had a great time. People forget about the Lake Minnetonka miracle where I pulled a swordfish out of there late in the night and ice fishing. I like the Minnesota people. I like the Minnesota Vikings. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins, though. Never have, never will. Even when he was at Michigan State with Dr. Larry Nassar and Evan Fox, I don't believe in him. I do believe in Chucky Pagano figuring them out. That defense in Chicago is going to Kirk Cousins. So I take the Bears there.
That game has the lowest total of the week at 38. 2 good defenses, 2 offenses.
Akeem Hicks might be out too, though.
Oh,
I have no idea who that is.
D. Lyman.
Pro Bowl D. Lyman.
Questionable knee injury.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That defense, there's probably another guy in there ready to eat. When you have Khalil Mack on the team, let me tell you what that does to the rest of the defensive line. Whenever you have like a Dwight Freeney or a Robert Mathis, what happens is their entire offense all week is focusing on how do we stop this guy. Okay, we're going to chip him with a tight end, where every time a running back leaves the backfield, we're going to have him chip him as well. And then our tackle would just hopefully pick up the scraps at the end because he is much bigger, much less athletic than the end rusher. What they don't think about is the guys inside who are just going to have to gobble up blocks and things like that. I think Akeem Hicks, probably a great football player. I didn't know he existed until a couple minutes ago. But I assume, even though he's down, it will hurt them. That offense has been preparing for Khalil Mack and what he can do and everything else. That'll just kind of be a plug-and-play player. Not forever. I think the middle of the line can obviously make a difference in a game. But when you got Khalil Mack, it's easier to rotate those particular positions because of how much focus and attention has to go on him. Bears cover for sure. What are they?
-2.5 there.
Yeah, that's an easy one there. That's an easy one.
Bear done.
Final game, Sunday night, prime time. Cowboys go to Saints. Saints are +2.5 at home.
Teddy Bridgewater gives an incredible speech after the game, thanking his teammates for believing in him, thanking the organization for making him the highest paid backup quarterback in football history, I believe, sticking with him, knowing that there's a chance that Drew Brees, who's been playing for 55 years, could potentially get injured. With that being said, has Jerry Jones given Dak Prescott $150 million yet?
Not yet.
Has Ezekiel Elliott reached his peak yet this season after traveling to Cabo?
Don't think so.
Has Amari Cooper gotten broken off as well? I go with the Cowboys right there, strictly because this is a money-driven business decision for Dak Prescott, who somehow met up with a QB guru this offseason and has become a completely different football player. The over-under is at 47. I would hammer the over on that as well. I like the Cowboys and the over for that game. I'm leaning that way. I think is a gambling term for it's not a lock. The Bears are a lock for me. I just think the Cowboys definitely pull that out there. I like what the Cowboys are doing. And I've said this before. Whenever the Cowboys are actually good at football and not just a hype machine, it's good for America because they're going to get shoved down our throat every single week because they are America's team. And Jerry Jones controls the TV rights, which negotiations are up every single year, it feels like. So every network's going to try to win over Jerry Jones. So they're going to put the Cowboys on TV. And we had to battle through all those years that they stunk. And now it's time we're actually going to get to pay off and see a good football team. I like the Cowboys a lot.
I think it's dangerous because they've played the Dolphins, Redskins, and Giants. So we're not sure how great they are. Going into the Dome on Sunday night, place is going to be rocking.
Place is going to be insane. Place is going to be a madhouse.
I hope that whistle guy is not there.
He's always there.
He's the worst.
Yeah, what's his deal? We get it. You can whistle good. Right? Yeah. Like, hey, maybe one time you're a guy. I mean, there was a tuba guy for the Colts that would come to every single game. He's actually called the Colts tuba guy. And he's a very talented guy. But, I mean, as a player, though, the tuba's awesome. Tuba's awesome. But if he played something that was just obnoxious, like that whistle guy is, I would hope that somebody in the organization would be like, hey, let's put you up in a booth with closed windows. You know what I mean? Like, we appreciate your dedication. We're just going to lock you in here, and it's going to be more soundproof than Gumpy's phone call room back there. We're going to put you in there. You can whistle all you want. Free tickets because we appreciate your support. But get the hell out of here with that thing. It feels like I got to battle through a piercing noise the entire game, which, by the way, I like incredibly rompous atmospheres. I loved it whenever I was playing. I love it as a fan. I enjoy that. But it's just that one person that's right by the mic. There's Colts tuba guy. that guy's talented, too.
Legend.
When does he play it?
All game, I think. Just puts those lips together.
You can bring a tuba into the stadium?
Yeah, you can't bring that in security.
Listen, the reason why that guy can get in there is he's a senior citizen white guy. It's obviously profiling. He's not going to kill anybody with that tuba. If he takes that thing to Memphis.
Well, he's going to be lucky if he doesn't get his throat slashed.
But if that instrument was one that was just a complete nuisance, now granted, it's just that guy's lips, so there's nothing you can say. Like, hey, man, stop blowing so hard. There's no way you can do that.
Or you'd say, oh, you want me to bust you in your mouth?
Yeah. The whistle guy? What if they put a muzzle on him? I know.
You look like Bane.
And it's probably good. I mean, it's a great atmosphere down there in the Superdome, but as a viewer, it's a little bit obnoxious sometimes. Just like sometimes whenever they have a camera or the sound person and they're right next to the most annoying human on earth, boo! And you can hear your dad yelling. Like I always think about the family members that are hearing their parents or their friends yelling directly into one of those things. I mean, it's not all figured out, but I like a nice rompous atmosphere. Primetime television, though, that guy Whistle's going to be wetting his lips all week getting ready for that. So maybe they lose. Maybe Dak Prescott gets affected by the dog whistler that is such a high pitch and so loud with incredible lung capacity that he can just blow for longer than any other human on earth, including professional blowers and fluffers. The guy is next level. I just hope I don't have to deal with it.
I feel like he's new. Like I assume he's been going to games for a long, long time, but as far as hearing him on TV, relatively new.
Just think about when he figured out he could do that. Everybody in his life was like, "Oh, so we're doing this? Like, this is what we got to deal with now because you learned this. We got to."
His wife at home while he's practicing.
Oh my God! Shut up. He's got dogs just going in circles around the entire neighborhood, and it's almost like it's very hard to find too. He wears that big ass whistle on his head. It is 10:55. We'll be back on the other side with more chatter. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
It's the perfect occasion for a mental vacation from the heart of the nation. Not a young medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is, Chase Rice. Appreciate that. Good luck on your tour. Heard you had problems traveling to the first stop at Fort Wayne. The boy hopped on a private plane, got there just in time. Good for Chase Rice. If you're in a town where he's coming, go ahead and check him out. He puts on a hell of a show, and he's very attractive. So if you're a single guy, go ahead and let Chase do the work, and then you can just hopefully pick up the scraps. With that being said, it is Friday, September 27th, and it's a beautiful one. A nice feel-good Friday here. Joined by the boys here in Indianapolis, Indiana! Coming fresh out of Memphis, Tennessee, which I'm sure there are some good spots, but Ty, myself, Zito and Evan, and Nick found every single one of the bad ones, and immediately after the game last night, right outside of the stadium, probably no less than 30 to 40 yards from me without me knowing, unbeknownst to me.
Some guy got his throat slashed ear to ear. Yeah, he got his throat slashed. Right from one ear to the other. You know, you go down there, certain guys just do not bode well down there. For instance, we went down there, we were told, don't make eye contact with anybody and you guys will be fine. But if you do, expect to either get, your wallet stolen, your throat slashed, or you're going to get roughed up a little bit. But again, Memphis is a beautiful city. I love this place.
That's my new favorite character of Ty's. Is this incredibly optimistic, gruesome Australian guy. I am so sorry. He's probably getting worn out by it if you're listening or watching. But, man, last night on the plane, we were all trying to sleep, like kind of lay low. We're all hanging out, and I couldn't fall. I don't sleep well on planes. I would just turn around the Ty, and I was like, is the Australian guy here? And all of a sudden he'd be like, yep, going to get your throat slashed. And I start crying, laughing every single time. Memphis is a beautiful city with a lot of deep culture. I'm sure there's incredible parts of the city. We just didn't see them.
No, yeah, tough to find the good ones, but they're there.
I was on...
The river looks nice.
The Mississippi?
So there's no bodies in there.
Well, not a lot of Italians, I don't think, in Memphis. So I'm not sure if the body hiding is the same as it is in Pittsburgh.
I think the bodies go to the hogs in Memphis.
Yeah, well, possibly. I mean, the stadium was a big one. I mean, the stadium was massive there. It's owned by the city. And where we were, our booth is literally 17 stories in the sky, right? It's 17 stories up. Adam Amin had to use binoculars. But if you look one way, we saw Arkansas. We looked the other way, we saw Mississippi. And then you look straight ahead, you see Tennessee, right? Because you're all the way up there. But, boy, I was trying to scan around. I mean, there was not a lot of good areas where we were at. I mean, they were putting us right in a bad area. But with that being said, great football game last night by Navy Memphis. Also, Philadelphia Eagles get a big-time win in Lambeau, which is not easy to do on the road, short week, especially against a Green Bay Packers team that has Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. So whenever I say this, I mean this. The people in Vegas are the most ridiculous humans on earth, almost as much as The Simpsons and Matt Groening, who he might be running the sportsbook, by the way.
Something to think about.
Wasn't that in the Back to the Future when old Cuzzy gets the
Biff Tannen.
The almanac.
So for those that don't know that are maybe new to the show, and if you just joined us for this hour, once again, you have to hate this if you're coming from wherever you're listening to this, and we apologize. We're only going to grow, though. I think that's the only thing that's happening. So you just need to get off the tracks or just hop on the train. It's just the way it's going to go. This is just how it is. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. Mike Francesa said, whenever I say things, it just becomes a feeding frenzy no matter what. That's kind of how our show is. We have no idea how it works. Every single day we're potentially not going to get on air, and then when we finally get on air, we're potentially going to get canceled or promoted. We have no idea what's going to happen, but that's our show. But I've had this big-time theory for a long time, as have much of the people. My video about it just so happens to have about 150 million views on the internet about it. I am thoroughly in the realm that Matt Groening, the Simpsons creator, is a time traveler.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me this is not satire. This is not me cracking jokes here or being a wise ass. I laid out a pretty solid case for this because there's just so many things so accurately predicted in The Simpsons. And now every single day I get a new tweet with something new happening. I guess Maggie going after Trump for something was basically depicted in a Simpsons episode like 15 years ago. Every day it continues to build. But as I watch this Vegas thing happen with the sports gambling, and the more and more I realize, and now that I'm fully a part of the sports gambling world, which I wasn't as a player, because anytime you walk into a locker room, they have these big ass signs in a locker room that basically says, don't be Pete Rose. It's not worth it. Don't be Pete Rose. Don't gamble on games. It's not worth it. And it's literally like drilled into your head as a D1 athlete. They had a mafia boss named Mike Francis come talk to us about how point shaving can happen and how if you do it, it might be worth the little bit of benefit at the beginning, but for the rest of your life, you're basically going to have to look over your shoulder because the Paisans don't just put horses in people's beds. They actually kill people. So it's like you, as an athlete, you are very much taught and very much understand like, hey, sports gambling happens, but it's not for us to be a part of. I think it will be interesting now that we're diving into the world whenever you have some people with how prevalent sports gambling is going to be. It's going to be bad for refs because every single mistake they make is going to be magnified, and it seems as if they're making more and 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 more crucial mistakes, which I don't know how that's happening. But I also worry about some of these little scrub college football players or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think there should be some worry a little bit about like potential influence with how big sports gambling is about to be.
Sure.
But when I say this, I mean this as somebody that was in the locker room. You are scared to death to even get involved in that. Will it happen? I assume there'll be an outlier that'll be terrible, as there has been since the Black Sox, and then what happened in Boston College, what happens in all these things. I think it's going to happen at some point. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, although I do believe there's a lot of people that fear that it will. You're taught as an athlete not to even get involved, and you're literally scared to death about it. So I didn't know anything about gambling. And then when I retired, all my degenerate friends were like, hey, congrats, man. You're allowed to bet on games now. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys bet on games because I didn't even know how I was going to do in games. I would go into some games, and this is whenever I was having Pro Bowl seasons. I would have no clue how I was going to be. Like, you know what? Knee feels terrible today. Hip is very tight. Groin hurts somehow. My ass hurts somehow. And I'm supposed to punt with 40-mile-an-hour winds. If we're backed up and I hit a shank, that's an automatic touchdown for the other team. Are you Italians that are setting the lines accounting for that in the over-under for me being the punter hitting a shank today because my groin hurts because of a potential fornication session with my fiance last night? Like, are you accounting for that? And then now that I'm diving into it even more, I think they are. Like, I think somehow, last night I called that game. It was an 11-point spread. Okay? Navy was getting 11 against Memphis. The last two times they met, it came down to 3 points, basically. It was just a very close game, a barn burner. Running the triple option, they're going to have the ball a lot. And in the first half, they absolutely dominated Memphis, but they were only up 6, right? Only up 6. Memphis was dead in the water, couldn't do anything. They had a kickoff return to the house. If not for that, it's a wide open game. And I even made mention to it in the second quarter. I said, how do these people in the Vegas think it's going to be in the desert think it's a 10.5? What a bunch of idiots, basically, is what I said. Then it actually moved up to 11 right before game time, and lo and behold, that game ended with a 12-point victory by Memphis. I have no idea how they could have predicted at halftime Memphis defense is coached by Coach Fuller from Marshall, new year at Memphis, was going to be able to talk to his defense and say, hey, we have to figure out how to play football against triple option and stop them just one time. Completely different defense in the second half. How did they know that Malcolm Perry, the offensive juggernaut for Navy, the guy that everything runs through, was going to get hurt? How did they know Nelson Smith, the fullback, which, by the way, probably the second most important position on the entire team, the fullback in the triple, how'd they know he was going to get banged up? I don't know, but I'm at the point thinking that Matt Groening is potentially over in Vegas writing these lines for people because they are just too damn good. With that being said, gambling is so much fun over here. It is so much fun, but it makes no sense to me.
Time travel is the only thing to explain it.
Yeah.
The only thing. I mean, I get NFL, like 70-80% of the games fall within one touchdown.
Yep,
so
parity is big time in the NFL. But these college games, I mean, these kids, they have a test. Like these Navy kids, it's like their 6-week test week or whatever. Like, so every 6 weeks they have these massive tests. And these kids are taking like crypto engineering and like chemical engineering and all these incredibly impossible tests. And then they're like, oh yeah, also you got to do like PT and you got to also train to save America. And then you have a game on Thursday night. And then you're like, oh, you only got to practice 2 hours. That's why you guys run the triple option. But now you have some other wrinkles that are deep. You know, we think, 10 and a half, 11 points sounds right. Like who is thinking that? Who is thinking that at all? And then bang, 12 points. My mind was blown last night by these people in Vegas more than anything in history because going into that game, I knew the line going in. I knew that 80% of the money was on Navy. I was in my head. I was like, yep, here's the night that Vegas gets broke. This is the night that all of those chandeliers come down in those casinos. This is the night that the penthouse to the outhouse happens for all of these people in Vegas. And it turns out it's like, nope, they're 100% right. It makes zero sense to me. And that's why I think gambling is so much fun because you're battling against time travelers. That's literally what you're doing. You're battling against time travelers.
Yeah, I mean, it's defeating the odds. If it was easy, it wouldn't be. Well, it would be fun because you'd be making a lot of money, but it wouldn't exist. Vegas wouldn't exist anymore if it was easy. But overcoming the odds are stacked against you so much, and overcoming it is what makes gambling great.
Yeah, and Stu Feiner says you're going to lose or whatever. He goes on a full run. He was a part of the movie.
Two for the money.
Yeah, 2 for the money.
2 for the money. He was one of the characters that they were based off of. He's been in the sports handicapping world for a long time. And when I was just getting into gambling, I was like, oh, this is a guy I'll talk about, a guy that was in a movie basically about sports gambling. I assume he knows. And the first thing he said to me was like, yeah, you're going to lose. Like, and then he said, but when you win, you're going to feel as if your baby maker is bigger than everybody else on earth. And he's 100% right.
100% right.
100% right. And speaking of defeating the odds, as we move forward to the other game that happened last night, it's not a lot of times where Aaron Rodgers throws for over 400 yards and they have a wide receiver that goes for over 150 where you're going to get a win, especially in Lambeau on a short week. Somehow the Philadelphia Eagles last night, who are 2 drops away from being an undefeated football team, went into Lambeau on a short week, faced a hot Aaron Rodgers in the first half who was looking like a magician man that Aaron Rodgers is, and got a win, and a lot of people are blaming Matt LaFleur. A lot of people are saying, hey, you can't just have 7 times throwing the ball whenever you're inside the 10-yard line or the 4-yard line. You can't have 7 trips to the red zone and only have 3 touchdowns. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Then a lot of people are saying the refs refuse to call pass interference, and they refuse to overturn the pass interference calls because for so long it's been strictly a judgment call by the people in the Foot Locker costumes that now that the NFL is trying to adjust and help the game and maybe help them out even, Alberto Riveron and the crew in New York are saying, nope, we're not doing it. We're sticking with it because there was a couple calls last night that were very easily challengeable in interference overturns for both teams, but in the Packers case, a couple big ones that could have changed the game for them.
It just, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put all the blame at his feet because he's a new coach, and I think this could be kind of what the Packers needed to come back down to earth a little bit. But, I mean, a lot left to be desired with his play calling last night.
So Matt LaFleur, whenever he was hired, Ty Schmidt was not jacked up about it. Ty Schmidt, who is an owner of the Packers here, one of the best accent doers in history. He is a diehard live and die with the Packers, has told Aaron Rodgers to his face and to the public that Aaron Rodgers has brought him more happiness than anybody else in his entire life, so he would take a bullet for that man.
Without a doubt, in a heartbeat.
So when Matt LaFleur was hired, he was very confused because McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, although they had a little falling out there at the end, I think everybody knew about, they had a lot of success. Aaron Rodgers became one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time under McCarthy. So this next head coach, whenever Aaron Rodgers still has years left of greatness, was a big deal. It's like, okay, who are they handing over this incredibly storied franchise to? Matt LaFleur gets hired because Sean McVay has success in L.A. They dug a little around. They checked Facebook. They checked Twitter. They checked location settings. And they said, you know what? Matt LaFleur had the same location as Sean McVay on 2 different occasions at different coffee shops. So that means that Matt LaFleur is the same as Sean McVay. There was a lot of talk about the LaFleur hiring. Young, offensive juggernaut from the Tennessee Titans. And everybody was talking about, hey, Aaron Rodgers didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. There was always drama behind this. First couple weeks, they come stumbling out the gates. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play during the preseason. Not by his decision, by the way. He said one game his back was tight. The other games he was told he's not playing. It was just kind of a victim of circumstances. Playing time was a victim of circumstance in the preseason. So his first live action in the Matt LaFleur offense was week 1 against the Chicago Bears, which are potentially being heralded as one of the best defenses to ever play football. That's what people are talking about in Chicago. I don't know about everywhere else, but the Chicago Bears defense is incredible. So after the game, Aaron Rodgers is interviewed, and he said, hey, I think a lot of people are going to struggle with that Bears defense. I think they're a very talented Bears defense, but we have a defense too that's going to win us some games. And on a short week, Thursday night against a wounded Eagles team that literally has 47 people in the injury tent just a week ago, you thought that this was potentially going to be the night that Aaron Rodgers and that offense finally explode. And some would argue that they did.
Yes, they did.
But instead, the defense couldn't keep up because on a short week, the defense doesn't get to prepare for the other team's offense either. Short weeks are very difficult for preparation. The offensive playbook gets small. The defensive playbook is even smaller. See ball, get ball. Let's see how it goes. But a lot of people this morning are saying Matt LaFleur is in over his head. He can't make adjustments. He doesn't know what the hell to do with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't know what to do with the team. And I would argue that this is a bit of an overreaction, especially because it's a Thursday night football game on a short week. But as a Packers owner, you have to wonder, are they ever going to get it together?
But it seems like his strategy worked, right? I mean, they dominated the game pretty much. They just struggled in the red zone. So
that's a pretty big part of football, though.
The only thing,
I get it, but he can make further adjustments, right? You're going in the right direction, is my point.
The only thing LaFleur did wrong, in my opinion, apparently he didn't know that Jimmy Graham got one of his hands stuck in a prop propeller.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard about
prop
this.
plane propeller.
That was on.
This week?
I get this rundown of stuff that happened on my piece of paper. Diggs types it up for me, which I appreciate a lot. It's like things that other shows are talking about, things that we should think about talking about, and all that stuff. And I didn't get to watch the Packers game. I got a chance to catch up with it on the plane about everything that happened. I saw the still shots of the refs refusing to overturn pass interference calls. I got a chance to listen to Ty just baffled about the whole thing on the plane, about how they lost. It was a rough night for Ty. I mean, it was a rough night for Ty last night, especially whenever you see Aaron Rodgers ball out like that, not to get a win. And then I look at Diggs' notes here, and his first note on the game. Does Jimmy Graham have two hands? That's the first note. Eagles and Packers. Does Jimmy Graham have two hands? And then the next one is Matt LaFleur's red zone offense not great? So the red zone offense was second in Diggs' mind. Number one was, does Jimmy Graham have two operable hands? What happened? Last night he was going for one-handed grabs on primetime television?
It seemed like either he was being lazy or he thought twice in the end zone he dropped one-handed catches.
He caught a touchdown earlier, right?
He did with two hands. With two hands.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham this season has had a much more success than in the past couple seasons with the Packers.
I mean, that touchdown for sure, but he has not panned out the way they thought he.
Yeah, but this is you having this opinion before going into this season.
It is, but I think all the other Packers fans share that sentiment too. I mean, that they drafted a tight end this year. He just I mean, I guess part of it is because you're expecting him to be a shell of who he was when he was in New Orleans, but he's just not that guy anymore. He's soft. He can't block anybody. He can't make anybody miss when he does catch the ball, and then he drops it all the time. So it's, I mean, and they're paying him a lot of money.
Flies planes.
Yeah, cares way more about World War II aviation than he does the playbook, which is, go look at his Instagram. He hasn't posted anything Packers related since he signed there.
Okay, so Ty is a little upset about that reaction to the game. His opinions do not reflect that of his employer, but this is something to talk about here. If Jimmy Graham, this is something I watched Peyton do, and it was awesome. I think we're playing against the St. Louis Rams. I think it was the St. Louis Rams. And Austin Collie was a rookie wide receiver. And at the time, Austin Collie was leading not just rookie wide receivers, but the entire NFL in catches, targets, everything, because he was this Caucasian Mormon which, by the way, I think that's a bit redundant.
I assume. I haven't seen the stats. But probably.
A lot of Us Mormons, a lot of Samoan Polynesians. So I guess Caucasian Mormon guy who was out of BYU. He was like 45 years old when he was drafted. Very good at football whenever he was in college. Is that Jimmy Graham's thing?
Yeah.
A lot of planes on there.
I mean, there's a lot of planes on Jimmy Graham's Instagram now that you mention it.
Big telemetry guy.
Loves telemetry.
Only planes and helicopters.
I mean, are you kidding me with this Instagram?
Yeah,
page?
I mean, people think I'm joking. I'm dead serious. He doesn't care about anything but flying World War II era planes.
It is pretty cool.
But it is. There's a lot of really cool shots there. I mean, he is IG flexing all over the place that he's friends with all these.
Football.
I mean, there's zero.
there
There's
we
a
go.
football.
There
That's
you go.
Seahawks. It's with the Seahawks. So you can see how Green Bay Packers fans don't like him. But Austin Collie was this. He came out of nowhere. Came out of absolute nowhere whenever he was dominant his rookie year. Nobody expected it. We had Reggie. We had other guys. I mean, there was a lot of people that had no idea. And this was back whenever our offense was a juggernaut, too. Dallas Clark was there. So I think Austin kind of, I don't want to say benefited from all that, but he was a hardworking guy. As soon as he got there, I mean, him and Peyton was a big fan. So he was targeting him early. He was getting a lot. This is obviously before his 3 death shots that he got where the concussions, it literally, I thought that he was potentially dead. I mean, very scary situations with Austin Collie, but before that, he was dominant on the football field. And he was still a rookie, and he was young, and he ran a little out route, I believe, and Peyton threw it to him, and it was a little bit out of his reach, but Austin reached with one hand to catch it, and it hit off his hand, and it just dropped, right? And Austin had been having an incredible season thus far, and he just, like, put his head down, and he jogged back to, it was probably first or second down, he jogged back to the huddle, and before he got, like, probably 5 feet away from the huddle, Peyton Manning just pointed at the sideline. Okay? Just pointed at the sideline, and he said, "Get out." And Austin jogs to the sideline, and Jim Caldwell and the offense coordinator are like, "You're in." He's like, "No, I am not." And he's like, "No, you're in." So Austin turns around like to go back on the field, and Peyton just points at the sideline as if he's like a dad, okay? So he's benched at this point. They have to bring in another wide receiver, somebody who was a special teamer, I'd assume, had nothing to deal. We end up scoring a touchdown. Because at that point, that was the year we were completely undefeated until we chose to lose. I mean, it was that was back when everything was humming. I mean, it was awesome to watch and ride the coattails after those moments. And I go up to Austin because he and I were friends at the time. He's a California kid. And he said, "Brah," a lot like he was Dog the Bounty Hunter. And I go up to him. I'm like, "Brah, what happened?" He's like, "I have no idea. I just got kicked off the field. I honestly have no idea." I was like, "By who?" He was like, "Peyton literally pointed me off of the field." And I was like, "Are you all right, bro?" He was like, "Brah, I have no idea." So then Peyton comes off the field. We kick the extra point. We kick off. And I guess while I was doing that, while I was holding for the extra point and kicking off, something had happened on the sideline. So I come back over and I'm like looking, and you see Austin like sitting like dejected all by himself. And I go over and I was like, "What's going on, bro? You know, like we did a big time win here." He was like, "I was told that if I ever try to catch the ball with one hand again, I will never be on the football field again when Peyton Manning's the quarterback." And I just started like crying, laughing. And Austin's having this terrible moment. He feels as if he let down his dad basically with that whole thing. And I'm just crying, thinking to myself, like, what a savage of an individual Peyton Manning is. He basically told this young rookie wide receiver who had a lot of promise, like, "Hey, I don't need that garbage with you with one hand. Yeah, I might have missed you a little bit. You dive then and you put 2 hands on that ball. I don't need you thinking this is a highlight real time. I don't need you thinking that you can snag balls one hand. Yeah, you have great hands. You're a great catcher." Austin Collie and I actually in warm-ups every single game, I threw to him. He worked on like 10 right-handed one-handed catches, 10 left-handed one-handed catches, 10 two-handed catches, 10 catches where he turned around. I was literally his passer in warm-up. So he has incredible hands. But Peyton was just like, "That ain't happening. If you want the ball to continue to come your way, that garbage will not happen." And that's an interesting moment because does Aaron Rodgers tell Jimmy Graham afterwards, like, "Hey, I know you're very wealthy. I know you've won a Super – has he won a Super Bowl, Jimmy Graham? I don't know.
No.
I know you've had a lot of success. But if you ever – try to one-handed catch a ball that you can definitely get 2 hands on, and it's an incompletion, I will not let you in my huddle ever again." That's an interesting moment that I don't think Aaron can have with Jimmy Graham at the year he is, but watching Peyton do that was a moment where I was like, yo, accountability is a real thing. And if you watch what Austin Collie did after that, he went up and got it with 2 hands every single time, and he went on to lead the NFL and everything until the boom, concussion shots. But that was a cool moment where I was like, man, I didn't know. That was when I learned, by the way, that, oh, this is Peyton's team. Because Jim Caldwell was like, "No, you're in." And he was like, "No, I'm not." He was like, "No, you're in." He was like, "All right, you tell me." I turned around and Peyton's just sitting there like, "Get the hell off the field." It was awesome. It was a very cool moment. And I think the one-handed catch is quite a flashy one. It's an awesome one. But, man, if you drop that, you are setting yourself up to just get dismantled on the internet.
Were you at the Colts when Donald Brown seemingly went the wrong way?
Yeah, that was on Peyton, too.
Yeah.
So whenever – because he had a call, and now that he's retired – I guess I can say it. He had to call bozo. He would say bozo, which means whatever I'm about to say does not count. So bozo, bozo, and then whatever the next play is, this means absolutely nothing. This is just dummy call. And I think Peyton forgot that he had put the bozo in, so he just automatically checked to another play. Nobody else on the offense checked to that play. Donald Brown, rookie running back in the backfield, he checks bozo, bozo, goes to another play. Peyton runs the next play. Nobody else is on the thing. He's mic'd up. Caught, darn it, Donald in the middle of the play while throwing it away. And all you see is Donald Brown just be like, oh, no, oh, what did I do? And just like Austin Collie was like, oh, Dad's mad. Dad's mad. Dad's mad. And I think that was a moment where Jeff Saturday had to tell him, like, you bozoed that. And Peyton, I assume, apologized immediately. But once that video gets out there, who are you going to believe? Yeah. Donald Brown, rookie running back from Connecticut, or Peyton Manning? It's like Donald Brown got buried by everybody. It was like Donald Brown learns a hard lesson of being able to keep up with Peyton's offense. Nobody has a clue. Like, no. Donald was actually in the right here. Peyton was wrong. But that's a moment that Donald Brown got buried for still to this day. You just brought it up. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was, I'm about 100% certain that was 100% on Peyton. I don't know. It's 11:26 here, Friday, September 27th. That's all the things, though. It is the quarterback's team. You go as the quarterback goes. That's why when you got a guy like Kirk Cousins, you got to really question on whether or not you want to bet on that team. That's why when you got a guy like Mitchell Trubisky, bear down.
Or not. Or yes.
I like Mitchell, man. I like the Bears a lot.
Yeah, you do.
But I think he's got a lot of growth that he needs to find quickly. And if Matt Nagy can bring it out of him by telling him to stop talking and step it up, I think that's good for the Bears because that defense is the truth. I like them a lot. But, boy, I will bet on quarterbacks over anybody else in the game. Quarterbacks and kickers. That's who I'll bet on. That's why I love Tom Brady and the Patriots this weekend. -7 against the Bills in Bills Mafia territory, which is going to be electric. But, boy, Tom Brady. Man. Get off the field, Austin. I assume Tom Brady has those moments, too.
Oh, yeah.
I would think.
I think that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, man. And accountability makes people better. Happened to Austin. I assume it's happened everywhere else. And that's why Belichick, who was born and raised in a Navy football program, has been where he's at. Because in the military, accountability is not just like, hey, you missed your block. It's like, hey, yeah, your buddy got killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick's dad coached at Navy for 40 years. I didn't know that. The Navy football team is basically Bill Belichick's home. So he'll go back there, just hangs out.
That's awesome.
And I would argue that that is direct correlation of why he is such an incredible coach. Greatest coach of all time, without question. Don't know how I got to that. 11:28, Friday, September 27th. Feel Good Friday. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being broadcasted worldwide on DAZN. If you're watching on Twitter, the YouTube, or anywhere else, please know that DAZN is an incredible app. It's the most downloaded global sports app for a good reason. They have nothing but bangers. And on Saturday night, Bellator 228 is coming to you live from the Forum in Los Angeles, exclusively on DAZN. It is being headlined by Machida and Mousasi. Here's some predictions on how that fight is going to go down. Of course it's Mousasi.
Machida Mousasi, it's a toss-up for me. I really don't know. I think Mousasi goes in there with the right mind. I think Mousasi takes that.
Gegard Mousasi. Always Gegard Mousasi. I'm a big fan, and it's like just well-rounded. He's just one of the best fighters that I ever seen fighting.
I got Mousasi. He's a calculated killer. I like him.
And Mousasi treating the Red King like the victims of the Red Wedding. It's a minute 40 left in round 2. Mousasi ground and pound. Mousasi maintains the Bellator MMA middleweight championship.
That's going to be an exciting fight. Lyoto Machida looked good in his last one. Gegard has been doing great too, but I feel like Machida's going to win this one.
Then another knee strike by Machida. Sonnen desperately trying to keep this barrage.
It's over.
And it is over. Lyoto the Dragon Machida picks up his second straight win in Bellator MMA.
This is a tough one. Mousasi has looked really good lately, and I feel like Machida almost got a second win on his career lately, and the things he's done in Bellator and the run he's made has been pretty impressive. I think that stylistically, Mousasi beats a lot of people that beat Machida, but I think the way they match up, I would have to favor Machida.
I'm gonna have to go with Mousasi all the way. I mean, Lyoto Machida is a legend. We've all been watching for a long time now. But at the end of the night, Mousasi has everything: the ground, the feet, stand up. I just think Mousasi is going to be able to outwork him and use more speed and agility and technique.
Machida, he's a savage. I don't see that going any other way. Mousasi, size. I think Mousasi's going to be too big. He's going to overwhelm him, take him down, put him in positions he's not comfortable.
I fucking love Mousasi. Mousasi all day long.
Riveting. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here on DAZN and Westwood One. Roger Goodell listens to the show. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Let's get to one more phone call. And if this doesn't work, I'm done with it. Probably forever. How about that? The amount of pressure that is on this man, I couldn't even fathom. This is going to change the trajectory of this show forever. Literally forever. Dolan from Fort Myers. What's going on, bub?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No. You're very distant in the background.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Dolan, I think it's. I think I've been a little bit harsh on the callers. I believe it's probably our fault, not the callers' fault.
We're not getting out.
Dolan, what's going on, bud? What do you want to talk about?
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God!
So they can't hear us?
They can't hear us. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, we got a couple billion-dollar companies building things. How are we supposed to run a show if the damn phones don't work whenever we're told the phones don't work? How are we supposed to run a show when the damn Wi-Fi doesn't work whenever we're a Wi-Fi show?
Technology.
I'm not going to lose my composure. Guppy, you might as well tell everybody on the damn phones, just hang it up, bub. Have a great weekend. We can't even talk to you.
They're not working anymore anyways.
Neither's your mic. I mean, it's just, it never ends. Never ends.
Wow.
How many? We're on like 50-some channels now at this point. There's shows that over here that get like 14 listeners that their phones work.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
It's
And it's something different every time, it seems like.
It is. Like, we can't hear them.
Yeah.
The system crashes.
Mhm.
And now they can't even hear us. I mean,
Yeah.
is this a one-way conversation?
Well, and we haven't used the studio since we left to be in the box truck, and the phones worked and people could hear us then. So I don't know what could have happened over the last 2 days when no one was in here.
Well, what happened to my truck at the airport?
Oh, boy. Same idea.
Gumpy, you all right back there? Did I just hear a deep oh boy back there?
To sabotage everything.
His boot's unraveling right now.
That's unbelievable. Anyway, speaking of sabotage, I'm wondering if the NFL is just taking my ideas and refusing to pay me for them. Let me tell you why. It's been talked about since probably for the last 5-6 years that the NFL wants to extend the season because it's more money. The owners want more games in their stadiums. They want more TV deals. They want more weekends with NFL football. We dominate for 17 weeks. We want to be able to dominate for more. They took a hard stand. They're like, we want 18 games. We want 18 games. We want 18 games. The NFLPA came out and said, there's no way you're going to get 18 games. Our guys are barely getting to the finish line with 16 games because of how banged up they get. You got us playing on Thursday Night Football. You got us playing in America. You got us playing in Canada. You got us playing in Europe. You got us playing in Mexico. You got a lot going on, and this is a very, very gruesome game. Now you want to add 2 games, plus with the 4 preseason games, there's no way. Me, being a big-time watcher of Pawn Stars, being a big-time Shark Tank guy, like enjoying the act of business and negotiations, I've been saying for about a year, Foxy, go ahead and play this if you could, please. I mean, it is a massive financial decision to add a game or lose a game. I've always said this, let's meet in the middle. Let's make it 17 games. Let's add a bye week. So it is officially 19 weeks. So it's 2 bye weeks, 17 games. Get rid of a preseason game or 2 so that you have like 2 real preseason games. That third preseason game, treat it like it's the AAFL. Treat it like it's the XFL. It's just tryout guys, bubble guys anyways. Give them that game, but make sure fans know that this is going to be basically scrimmage between players that aren't going to make this team or special teamers. Add a bye week, have 17 games, and let's just keep it moving going forward. Let's in proportion add to the salary of everybody, so you literally take no money out of anybody's pocket for another performance. Pay them for the bye week as well, and just keep it moving. Then we add an extra game. It's not 18, which is what the NFL wants. It doesn't stay at 16, which is what the players want, but it's a nice win-win for everybody. Been saying it for like the last year or so. That was a little flashback there. Obviously, I was speaking with better language because we can do that on podcasts and such. But that is a real thing that I've been saying. And now, just yesterday, it has come out that the NFL and the NFLPA are almost basically to terms before this new CBA on a 17-game schedule, a 2 preseason game schedule. I don't know if they're going to add an extra bye week. They should. And I just want to know this, Commish. If you're just listening to what I say, that's cool with me, but at least let me put in my bio, NFL consultant. I mean, that was the obvious answer. I'm assuming I'm not the only person that say it. I've been yelling it for the longest, for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's just been so against the 18 or 16, no matter what side you're on. I've been yelling this for the longest, but this just seems like the right decision. This is how business happens, by the way. The last CBA, when it was up, the NFLPA was coming into every team meeting room across the league, everybody that would listen say, we're going to go to war. They actually built up a war chest for funds so they could pay all these lawyers an insane amount of money. They were taking money out of our checks to do this. They were doing that. They were telling you, you know what, get Cobra insurance. This lockout's going to be a long time because we're not giving up anything. And it was like a rally the troops type speech. And I was sitting in there like, yo, is this not a business? Like, that's not how you go into a negotiation. Like, if you have that mindset going into a negotiation, let me tell you how that negotiation is going to go. You're going to walk right into Goodell's office. How's it going, Goodell? Guy who gets paid $40 million a year, works for 32 billionaires. We have some lawyers that have been paid with a war chest that we've been taking from a bunch of players. You have billions of dollars with your lawyers. I can't wait to see how this war goes. It went exactly how we thought. The NFLPA got smoked. Jeff Saturday ended up negotiating with Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones. How does that happen? And now that we're years later in the CBA, the NFLPA completely lost. And I asked the question one time in the meeting, I was like, how come you guys just don't go in there like thinking about, you know what, this is business. The owners need the players need the owners. This is us kind of coming together. And I know that's like a kumbaya thought, but is this not a business in the end? And they're like, oh, you're just ignorant. You don't know how it works. And I'm like, probably. I mean, I guess I don't know how it works. I've never sat in the meetings with Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, and their team of lawyers that are getting paid more than I'm getting paid probably in my entire NFL career. But I would assume that if you go in there at least like, hey, let's figure this out. Let's make this work. We need you. You need us. If we get rid of weed, that'd be great. Get rid of the weed testing. That'd be cool. You guys want an extra game? All right, let's figure out how we make that happen on our side instead of saying, no, you want an extra game? No way. We're not playing any more games. We don't want more money.
We don't want more money for the extra game or the extra bye week. We're not doing it. It's not good for the players. And the owners were like, well, we'll just lock you out of the building then. That's literally what the owner said. We'll just lock you out of the building. So I just think that mindset of at least attempting to go, and it might be naive of me. It might be very naive of me because these billionaires are billionaires for a reason. They're savage individuals. I get that. But I feel like whenever you're building up the fact that you're going to go to war with somebody, you're building it up like, oh, we're going to go in there and we're going to punch them in the mouth with our demands. We're not going to give up anything. That automatically makes them do the same thing. And that's not good business. I think the 17-game schedule with an extra bye week, 2 preseason, and just like I said with that 3rd preseason game being an obvious BS game. Like, hey, these guys are probably going to be working at McDonald's, the Canadian Football League, or the XFL next year, but one of these guys might have a Vince Papale moment and make the team. Like, if you just keep it real with everybody, I think that is a great meet in the middle. That's great business, and everybody ends up making more money this way. Now, granted, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers are already getting beat to hell and back whenever they're playing 16 games. So that extra game is going to be tough, but that's what the extra bye week is for. That's whatever you maybe the NFLPA says, hey, is there any way we can get a little bit more money towards the treatment of the players in the facility so that guys don't have to go outside the building to find massage therapists and these new things that people are saying make players better and extend careers? The TB12 treatment, by the way, was found outside of the NFL. Is there any way we can have each team give a certain amount of money to maybe find these alternative routes to extend careers and make players feel better? Can we add that in there too? And I would assume the NFL would be like, yeah, if you find another Alex Guerrero, you guys do whatever you got to do. Because for me, I just feel like the owners and players have been at odds for recent history. And it's like, yo, you need each other here. We're all making a lot of money. We need each other. We've seen what happened with the replacement refs. It's not good. We've seen what happened with the scab players back in the day. It's not good. You need your best players to play, and the players need the owners' bank accounts to play. They need their stadiums. They need their facilities. Let's just come together and negotiate. And then I like the fact that this 17-game season with 2 preseason games is already being talked about because it's a step in the right direction.
My favorite part about what you're saying, and I think they should already have it, is the two bye weeks. I think with the 16 games, you should probably have 2 bye weeks because of the stuff that the players are going through. But with 17, yeah, the second bye week is the huge part of that.
Well, and also the Thursday night games is considered a little bit of an extra bye week because right after the Thursday night game, you have the extended weekend, which is why you don't see guys who are banged up play on Thursdays because they're getting an extra bye week there. But you're still playing early. You're not recovered yet from the Sunday game. You're beat up. But I do believe that 17 game schedule is the right way to go. And I think, you know what? Commissioner Goodell and I dapped each other up right before I went out and owned the draft. Maybe he was like, I didn't even know this guy existed, really. I didn't even know. Who's that? And he started digging into my stuff. And he pops around on our YouTube, by the way, The Pat McAfee Show, youtube.com/The Pat McAfee Show. Yep. By the way, we're YouTubers. We are monsters.
It's hot.
We are monsters on YouTube. We have paid zero attention to that thing, and it's getting bigger.
It's taking off.
And we are very thankful to the people watching us on YouTube. I think we're going to start paying attention a little bit more. Zito has been working on his YouTubing. Zito, if you could please do the YouTube stuff so we can get bigger on YouTube.
This is Zito. This is the Pat McAfee Show YouTube. Let's go. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out.
YouTube videos are
Incredible.
a special thing. But I wonder if the old Goodell or somebody over there heard that and was like, that sounds genius, actually. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's not tell him, though, so we don't have to pay him anything. And let's not let him get the credit or any happiness because we still are billionaire savages. But I'm happy it's a step in the right direction. I like it a lot. All right. We got to get to a break. I would love to take calls to close this week out. Feel Good Friday. But they don't work. My headset's been popping in and off every other 3 minutes, too, so I barely hear anybody else talking.
It's not good.
But we will survive.
This one's called Brutal Savage. It's relentless rock with supercharged metal riffs, pounding beats, and dark electronics.
I wouldn't even have heard this one to know that this probably doesn't fit the show.
You were just talking about savages.
We do have dark electronics.
See, true. The thing that Nick used to do with our music is whenever we talked about a subject, he would just type that subject in Spotify, and whatever song popped up, we were like, oh, this song everybody knows, we can talk about it. Like 21 Savage song would have probably came on there at that moment. but it's $3 million to play that. So Nick's taking that same theory, but using knockoff music that nobody knows, and it's kind of an interesting little situation here right now. It's very interesting right now.
We had to give it a go. You see a song called Brutal Savage, you want to know what that sounds like.
I think we knew what it was going to sound like. 11:45, Friday, September 27th. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
present Change Up, the live whip-around show that changes how you watch the ballgame.
Every night, this is going to be the place to be.
Jump in and out of the best plays as they happen with our team of incredible hosts.
What?
And big-name guests.
Hunter Pence, you've done work. That's right. Rags Electric Factory. Wait, it's time for Bat Flip, boss. We're whipping him around, baby. Whip it, whip it.
Live every night, only on DAZN.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. 11:50 here, wrapping up what has been an incredible feel-good Friday with no phones at all. We've covered a lot of things today. Eagles get a big win in Lambeau Thursday night, short week on the road. Very difficult to do, especially whenever you're playing one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and he throws for over 400 yards. Now, on the flip side, how do you throw for 400 yards and lose? That's what a lot of Packers fans are thinking today. That's what Ty Schmidt, who's an owner of the Packers, is thinking today. And that's what people are going to wonder going forward. Are the Packers a lost cause? I still have them as my NFC championship because I did not watch last night's game. That might change once I watch the game back this weekend. Got a chance to talk about how Vegas, the people in the desert, might be potentially linked to the Simpsons creator, Matt Groening, because their predictions seem to be eerily, insanely freaky, petrifyingly accurate.
Good word.
In impetuous fashion, I was able.
There it is.
The word I did not get in last night, and the reason why I think the people in the desert are scary accurate is because of what they were able to predict last night with the Memphis Navy game, when everybody who knew anything about the game thought it was going to be a close game. Vegas was like, nah, it's going to be an 11-point game. It was a 12-point game. It's like, I don't know how the hell you do that. I have no clue how you do that. The word that I missed last night going in, post-haste, which, Diggs, I know you don't know what that means. Do you?
Yeah.
I did not know what that meant yesterday. I didn't know what impetuous meant either, because I knew that Navy offense, triple option, he was going to have to make decisions quickly. And for 4 quarters, I didn't want to be like, this guy has to make all these decisions quickly. And Malcolm Perry very quickly. So I asked our Brainiac friends, Nick Brodo and Ty Schmidt, I said, I need other words for quickly. And impetuous came, post-haste came, and then that Malcolm Perry kid got hurt. And all of a sudden, everything changed. I didn't get to use it anymore. But I feel like a very intelligent human when I use SAT words on the air.
The only reason I know it is because old newspaper editors were like, I need your story post-haste.
How do you do?
I don't know if that's accurate.
And then bring me a T-bone steak, you see?
That was an incredible impression. That's probably the best impression I've ever heard. Number 2 is the Australian guy in Memphis.
Yeah, actually, Pat, I was going to say, with the way things have been going today, maybe going back down to Nashville and getting my throat cut ear to ear isn't such a bad idea.
Memphis.
What did I say, Nashville? Yeah, but again, both great cities. So,
I can't hear anything. My headphones thing just crashed on the floor. We weren't able to take any phone calls. We got about 2 minutes left of this week. I feel overall a pretty good week for us.
Yeah, you crushed, bro.
I feel like we overall had a pretty good week. Another good game on Thursday Night Football. Couple good predictions. I was wrong about the Eagles not being able to get a win, but I did say that Adams and Rodgers were going to go off, and they did. I didn't know about Matt LaFleur, and apparently nobody still does. The defense on a short week is battling an uphill battle because you don't get to prepare as much. So I don't think we should turn our back on the Packers defense that quick. I think we should think about it. I think Roger Goodell potentially listened to our show and got his whole new idea for the scheduling problem that has been a controversy since it has been brought up about them wanting 18 games in a season, which has started years and years ago. We talked about the J-Lo and Shakira doing the Super Bowl. And I thought Schefter was going to get crushed for his tweet where he said a little bit of a Miami flavor for a Super Bowl in Miami. J-Lo's from New York. Shakira's from Colombia.
Yes.
Neither of which are from Miami. So Schefter saying a little bit of a Miami flavor would be a generalization which the internet loves to bury, even though we all know he's probably spot on with that whole thing.
A lot of people asking how Mr. 305.
I honestly, whenever I heard the Super Bowl was going to be in Miami, I thought Rick Ross and Pitbull were opening that thing up. Then I thought maybe Trick Daddy was going to come out.
He loved the kids.
He loved the kids. And maybe what's that dude's name? I don't know his name. Paul something? He was married to J-Lo?
Used to own the Dolphins?
No, the guy that makes the suits.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. This has been the Pat McAfee Show. You are the greatest humans on earth. Are we out? Did I miss it? Jeez. I can't hear anything.
fucking